Good evening and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Shellis, and tonight I am going to take you on a trip through Kiryas Joel in Orange County, New York. But we're going to talk about religion, politics, religious freedom, orthodoxy. This is going to flow. But first I'm going to play my documentary, which it's just short. I had a couple of edits I didn't make, but you might not see them. But it was from a trip I took in 2022, and I had to go down to New York because my stepdad passed away. And so as I drove back, I decided that I would drive through Kiryas Joel and film. Now, it was really weird because purple hair, nose ring, tattooed, in driving a pickup truck and filming. So it was kind of weird. You know, I was a little nervous, but actually I really didn't get I didn't get any bad reactions like I thought I might get because I was filming. And I just did it. So then I came back and, it's been sitting in the can for how many years. And I decided, I found an article I liked. I said, I'm going to do this. I wasn't feeling good. I'm going to do this. We're going to watch it. Let me say hi to everybody. We're all going, but it's much more than just what we're going to see here. There's going to be more. So hi, Scott. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Bella. And Tommyist and Kim, thank you for moderating, and Looney Tunes. And we're going to get started. Anthony Davis, Dawn O'Leary. All right, we're going to get started. This is a short documentary I put together about this city. And I don't know how many people are here. Okay, so about this area. And it's Orange County, New York is about, 50 miles north of New York City, maybe. But if you go up the Westchester side, you go up over the Tappan Zee Bridge, which is now called the Mario Cuomo Bridge in New York, because when his son was governor, that's what he did, which I wish they would turn it back to the Tappan Zee Bridge. Anyway, so you go up, and then you're going through Rockland County, and then you hit Orange County, and that's where this place is. There's also a settlement like that in Rockland County, but I decided to drive through there because I had lived on Mountain Lodge Park, which was in the town of Blooming Grove, for 5 years, and when I was first married and with my daughter, and we lived on the top of a mountain. I mean, it was like a mile up mountain, dirt road, wood stove, the way I like to live. But I really didn't notice these people that much. But evidently things have changed there, and they changed quite a bit. So if you guys are ready and everybody is joining, we're gonna take a look. So remember, it's environmental, it's political, it's religious, it's there's a lot here. And it isn't just them. We're going to talk about that after. So you enjoy. I'm going to set it up and we will start. Years ago, friends of mine visited the Satmar village of Kiryas Joel, established in 1977 in upstate New York. Quote, "It was amazing," unquote, one of them said of the streets and shops filled with men and women in traditional black clothing. Quote, "Literally everything was Hasidic. It was like visiting Eastern Europe a century ago," unquote. Actually, I pointed out, Eastern Europe wasn't anything like that, least of all the Romanian city of Satmar, the home base of the Satmar. A century ago, it was a bustling with secular culture, diverse Jewish politics, and above all, non-Jews who constituted 3/4 of the population. Indeed, A community like Kiryas Joel could never have existed in Europe. It is a uniquely American shtetl, as the title of the new book about the town by David Myers and Naomi Stolzenberg suggests. In American shtetl, Stolzenberg, a professor of law at the University of Southern California, and Myers, a professor of Jewish history at UCLA, provide the definitive study of Kiryas Joel, its history, people, and its profound relevance for America and American Jewry well beyond the town's 25,000 residents. The authors of American Shtetl understand Kiryas Joel not as an authentic Eastern European Jewish town, but as a recreation of a mythic past built on uniquely American features. Above all, the power of religious freedom, private property, and state welfare. The book is divided into two sections. Part 1 describes the past and present of the city. It opens with a detailed portrait of life in the village today. Religious life, gender roles, education, politics, work, charity networks, and economy. Kiryas Joel is one of the poorest cities in the country, suffering 4 times the national rate of poverty with over 93% of its residents on Medicaid. It remains an extremely homogeneous community where religious or cultural deviance is punished, sometimes harshly. The regular presence of violence in the village against those who reject the Rebbe's leadership, slashed tires, torched cars, smashed windows, physical assaults, and even death threats, constitutes a steady part of the story. Though the town's leadership always claimed it was the action of young hotheads, the authors made it clear that it was a, quote, direct result, unquote, of the victims' resistance to the leader's authority. One famous sermon of the Rebbe, the Ki Sista Drusha, openly instigated these attacks. In the village, religious and political authority are deeply intertwined. Beyond social consequences for defying rabbinic leadership, the Rebbe essentially appoints all local political office holders, despite the technical compliance with democratic procedures. Thus, religious authorities wield both private and secular power. The book jumps back to review the history of Satmar Hasidim, relative latecomers to the Hasidic world, despite today constituting its largest faction, and their first Rebbe, the late Joel Teitelbaum, after who the village is named. After losing his entire family in the Holocaust and escaping on the famous Katzner train, which spirited hundreds of Hungarian Jews to safety, the anti-Zionist Teitelbaum failed to find a place in Palestine and ultimately settled in Williamsburg, Brooklyn in 1946. In Williamsburg, the Satmar Hasidim paradoxically attempted to create their own fortress of isolation through the active engagement in urban politics to a far greater extent than their pre-war ancestors, as documented in last fall's brilliant study of the community, A Fortress in Brooklyn. They navigated the anti-poverty programs established by Lyndon Johnson, built alliances with political elites in both parties, worked alongside other minorities on local community boards, and even developed robust and often violent neighborhood watch groups that, like the Jewish Defense League and the Black Panthers, evinced no small measure of ethnic pride. Nowhere does what the authors call the Satmars' unwitting assimilation into America appear more obviously. However, in their decision to flee racially mixed Brooklyn to the suburbs to create a homogeneous village of their own. As the authors note, the establishment of culturally and racially monolithic residential concentration in the suburbs is the norm, not the exception in America, achieved through exclusionary zoning and other practices, legal and illegal. Above all, it was the ability of the community to purchase wide swaths of land, which they then sold or rented exclusively to their own people, that enabled the village to start and grow. The book's more substantial second part traces the staggering number of court cases coming out of Kiryas Joel since the 1980s in the context of major changes in American jurisprudence and political culture over the same decades. The most famous is certainly the lawsuit brought by Louis Grumet School Boards Association against the creation of an exclusively Hasidic public school district in the village, established with the support of political leaders of both parties. The lawsuit reached the Supreme Court, which, in a series of decisions, moved from ambiguous opposition to broad support for the school. The lawsuits hinged on a conflict of principles within the First Amendment between the prohibition of the state establishing a religion and the guarantee of freedom of religion, an ongoing debate in America that has decidedly swung toward the latter position in recent years. Indeed, Kiryas Joel was not merely the beneficiary of the rise of conservative, important judicial battle that changed the law in its favor. Remarkably, even more of the lawsuits were purely internal affairs, a result of a split among Satmar Hasidim in the aftermath of their Rebbe's death in 1979, with at least 3 different camps eventually operating in the Satmar community. This incredible litigiousness, despite the strong traditional prohibition against turning to the secular courts, along with their growing political and legal savvy, reflects one of the most obvious aspects of their, quote, unwitting assimilation, unquote. Indeed, the first lawsuits were filed by the most segregationist of the groups, those who opposed the creation of the public school itself. Satmar's assimilation into America manifested in countless other areas too, all well documented in the volume. We've already seen their suburbanization, litigiousness, and modern political savvy. Add this to their defense and advocacy of disability rights, economic liberalism, increasing use of the internet, even feminism, manifest in growing numbers of women working outside the home as much for personal gratification as economic need, according to the author's research. Readers may have forgiven for getting lost in the dizzying array of lawsuits filed by and against Satmar Hasidim in Kiryas Joel and Williamsburg. The authors helpfully include a glossary of major figures in the narrative, but the book is designed to be a comprehensive account of this history, and it certainly accomplishes this goal. The book is framed from the beginning by noting the community's political transformation in 2020. In 2016, the village split 55-45 for Trump, but by 2020, a staggering 99% of the village voted for Trump. One might say this reflects their move from a transactional mode of politics in which they support members of whichever party promise them the most immediate benefits to an ideological mode of politics in which they resemble many white Christian conservatives whose mantra of, quote, religious liberty, unquote, they share. Yet the book demonstrates how this assimilation into America generally, and white conservative Christian culture in particular, has actually been developing for decades. The foundation of Kiryas Joel coincided with the rise of Jerry Falwell's moral majority, founded in 1979. The movement pushed the effort to promote Christian values in the public sphere against the earlier ethos of integration and liberal humanism, an effort that began to bear fruit with the election of Ronald Reagan and has since transformed the American judiciary. The Grumet case was about more than just one public school, write the authors, as it, quote, pit 2 competing visions of America against each other. On one side stood the vision of America as a country dedicated to integration and inclusivity. On the other side stood the vision of America as a Christian nation, unquote. It was the latter vision of America as a Christian nation that fit Satmar. That is perhaps best symbolized by the fact that their most successful and well-known advocate has been Jay Sekulow, a Messianic Jew and former Trump legal advisor who fused Jewish belief and Christian evangelicalism. Kiryas Joel, in other words, is bigger than Kiryas Joel, both for American Jews and America writ large. It is also a community, Myers and Stolzenberg write in conclusion, quote, that serves as a revealing mirror of American society, exposing deep roots and fissures in the animating ideas of this country.
People in the town of Monroe got a chance to speak out tonight about a controversial land proposal that would double the size of Kiryas Joel. News 12's Blaise Gomez reports from the mostly Hasidic village that questions and concerns are now coming to a head.
And only a few dozen people came to this meeting here tonight during what the DPW commissioner for the town of Monroe described on record as treacherous road conditions. Many people had called for this meeting to be rescheduled, and critics say it wasn't to avoid having people come out.
No thank you to the village of KJ for refusing to postpone this meeting.
To have people come out in this weather is disgraceful.
Speaker after speaker criticized Kiryas Joel's decision Tuesday to not cancel the public input meeting on environmental concerns related to the controversial land deal, which would double the Hasidic village in size. Village Public Relations Director Ari Felderman said people can still weigh in even if they couldn't make it.
There might be fewer people here, but there are two ways to respond to this scoping session. One is verbally and the other submitting in writing, and they have 7 days to do that.
Among those who did attend to address KJ and Monroe leaders were two annexation petitioners.
The annexation petitioners are very pleased that the village board has elected to commence tonight's public meeting.
Every parent wants to raise their children to belong in the community where they were raised.
Members in town also addressed leaders at the Base Rochelle Catering Hall with their environmental concerns, including the head of the anti-annexation group, United Monroe.
We have a conflict here, ladies and gentlemen, a big conflict. And the DEC made a big mistake in handing the review process to the village of Kiryas Joel, since you have a proven track record of environmental violations.
Long-awaited environmental impact study on a proposal to double the size of the Hasidic village of Kiryas Joel is finally out, and while that study claims the plan won't impact the community's already rapid growth and development, not everyone is convinced. News 12's Blaise Gomez has that story from Kiryas Joel.
Multifamily development is just about everywhere in the growing Hasidic village of Kiryas Joel, but space is running out.
What we have a problem with is overdevelopment, urbanization of a truly rural landscape here, and it's just not sustainable.
John Allegro lives right on the KJ border and is against the village's expansion plans to take 507 acres from neighboring Monroe. On Friday, KJ released a long-awaited environmental impact study reporting the village will double to 42,000 people by 2025 with or without the annexation.
I really saw that as kind of a threat. You know, they were saying, well, we're going to grow this much anyway, and you might as well give us this land.
On Monday, County Executive Steve Newhouse said he's concerned with how fast the report was put together.
The normal process in this should be 3 times of what the time that they put in this.
At Kiryas Joel Village Hall,
we're looking to speak with someone from the village. I don't know if Harry Felderman is available.
I was told no one was there, but outside I saw the same public relations coordinator I asked for by name, who said to contact their PR firm.
It's best it goes through them.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, well, they're in Albany, so I don't think they'll be able to do anything on camera.
They'll tell me what to do, and then I'll follow.
Okay.
A PR rep said no one was available and would try to send a written statement. But by the end of the day, my questions about what's in the report remain unanswered.
All right. So there you go. That is the village. I went through it, and to answer the question in the chat, I felt like I was an interloper. I felt like I was going into someplace I didn't belong. That's all. They're very insular people, and that was, what I was answering to. So, all right. So that is a religious sect. And there are others in the United States. But the problem that was here was the town. There was a big problem with the town, with the land, with the expansion. As you can see, I call it overshoot because they have many, many, many children. And the women are separate. The tradition separates the women from the men. Women wear wigs. So a lot of these religions, women have to cover their hair. It's not just in secular, the Hasidic religion. It's in Islam. Muslim women wear hijabs. I mean, it is just part of these different religions. This, though, was interesting, and to learn about the problems that came. I'm going to share my screen with you guys because I want to go through now. I have, it takes me a second. I have articles to pull up, and we're going to look. The first thing I wanted to tell you was about this, this turf war that was there. And let me fix everything. Sorry, guys. It's just, when you have so many things going on and screens. Okay. So this was what happened. These people were literally, they say they wanted to live in peace. They are, I guess that there was problems. They wanted 500 plus acres of land. And let's see if I got the system audio and I could just play this one really quick. This might help you understand what the argument was about, which is what I didn't put in the documentary.
Joel is a village within the town of Monroe.
Growing up, we always knew that the local people don't like us.
There's a high demand for housing in Kiryas Joel. A petition was submitted seeking annexation of 507 additional acres.
We need more room, but they're just not going to give us what we need.
This annexation must be stopped.
There has been violence against those who step out of line.
Monroe is where the class of civilization is taking place more here than anywhere else in America.
Okay, I watched that movie, I think I did, in 2022 when I came home, but I didn't watch it for this. So that's what happened. There was the clash, and it happens in other places in New York because there's more property. There's another county up that's the same thing is happening. And it happens all over the United States because we have religious liberty, we have religious freedom. And one of the things that article had pointed out was that because these people were successful in making it the first town, a first secular town in the United States, it's going to pave the way for all of the religions that want to do similar things. There will be no separation of church and state. That's what I see coming with these laws. But this was this was an argument, and it was in Monroe, which is where I lived. I didn't even know back then it wasn't going on. I've been on Buffalo a long time, that I knew of, any of it. But so there's a movie, and if you want to watch it, that is you can learn, about what happened there. And let's see, at the time of the film, more than 50% of the population of a 22 square mile Monroe was living on 1 square mile of overcrowded multifamily buildings. The area meant to be an alternative to life in Brooklyn, New York, which is Williamsburg, which is where there's a huge Satmar community, and taxing on the town water supply, its county social services, and the environment. The 2010 census revealed Kiryas Joel tracked to be the poorest area in all the United States. So what I'm going to show you next, this is Monroe. And I lived in the town of Blooming Grove, but it was weird because my post office was Monroe. So here's the Monroe, New York population 2024, 9,560. That's not the whole county. That's Orange County. But their growth, if you're going to look at this, their growth rate since 2020 is 0.17%. And a very small growth rate. And it's a very small town. It's little Monroe, 3.5 square miles. But then when you look at right there, that split off the population. Here's the population of Monroe, and here's the population of Kiryas Joel, 566. So their growth since 2020 has been 35.76%, and their growth rate is 7.94%. And they have the 1.4 square miles, and they got some of the extra land, I believe they did. But it's growing, so it's really growing. And these were where I got the demographics for the little documentary. They probably went by a little bit too fast because, like I said, there were 2 edits that I didn't make. But so there you go. That's the one place I wanted to show you. And I also want to do a quick talk about money and public money. And being that it is a poverty level area, they also have money from the federal government and the state for their schools and their religious schools. And so it's sort of a precedent because the Supreme Court already did this. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that states must fund tuition at religious schools if they fund other private schools. So this is like a test case in New York for all different kinds of religious sects of all denominations, but Orthodox, because the Orthodox religious sects are who do these things. So you saw the difference in the sizes, but so basically this article, which is not what I'm going to read, I mean, I could play it, but it's long. It was very interesting to read about the schooling and how they got public money, yet they have terrible scores because they will spend most of their time teaching the religious doctrines of the Torah. They're studying over how many times can you read a Bible? And look, what are you reading the stories over and over and reinterpreting them? I don't understand it. I'm an atheist, but I'm trying to be, objective with all these, and I'm usually not. I'm actually not. Probably YouTube will demonetize this, but their schools performed terribly. And and as you see, also the segregation of the women and the men is quite glaring. So, this was just talking all about. Okay, here these are areas in the city, but this is an article in the New York Times that was talking about the tax money and how it's going to education, and it's really a precedent. We've got a precedent set in this country, guys. So what I wanted to do is juxtaposition a little bit and show you the Church of Latter-day Saints, because what's interesting about them is their movement began in Western New York, which is where I live now. And that happened during what they call the Second Great Awakening, when this guy was getting visions of a new sacred text, the Book of Mormon. Well, anyway, they ended up getting out getting out to Utah, but they say they've got 17 million belonging to their Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, the LDS, and 250,000 in the Community of Christ. And these people have 45,000 up there. But I mean, there's no comparison, but it's the precedents that have been set, and having the Trump Supreme Court in making these changes, the public dole is changing in what kind of schooling it supports. And that's a big thing, I think. All right. And so how you guys doing out there? Yeah, with the stats. So that's what I wanted to show you there, but it's not just them. I mean, South Carolina politics, this was in 2023. The lawmakers paved the way to fund religious schools with public money. You see where I'm going with this? It's somebody sets a precedent in New York, but it's all over the United States. So this is what's happening in South Carolina. There was a ballot initiative that would ask South Carolina voters if public funding of religious schools should be allowed. And obviously, they're going to look at New York and say, well, look at what New York is doing. Obviously, right? And it's the same thing here. This was in North Carolina, biggest recipient of taxpayer-funded school vouchers, Greensboro Islamic Academy. They were in financial trouble, but they also, everybody gets money, from the government. It's sort of equal opportunity. It may not seem like that, but all right, we're going to move on. I have an article. We're going to talk about the Amish, but I am going to change because I'm going to show you a little clip I put together. And let's watch this, and then we're going to talk about the Amish because that's where I live and what their deal is. All right, that's where I live. That's right up the street. And I love taking footage. So that's the Amish. And they are, I'm just going to tell you, they are Anabaptist. Okay. And, but you see the difference in how they live compared to the Satmar Hasidics. And the Amish, I noticed that they don't do as much. They worship on one day a week, and they work, and they grow their food, and they work very hard. Yes, women are also the same thing. That women have a lot of kids, and the kids are working, though. They're all working. It's a lot different. The way that they worship is just, it's worlds different. It's worlds different. And so, you see how they live. And I found this interesting article about the Amish from Business Insider, actually, and I thought I would just go through the points about the Amish people that, because actually a lot of them do well in business, and they don't take public, like Medicaid or anything like that. They pay for everything that happens. My neighbor's little girl had cancer, and they all got together and they built their sheds and they did everything, and she was in the hospital and they paid the bill, and she's okay. The little one's okay. Jonathan, my neighbor, he's like 38. He has 8 kids. All right. The Amish value experiences more than material goods. So they're a lot different. They're huge savers, often setting aside up to 20% of their income. They loathe debt and try to avoid credit cards. Rather than turn to credit, they'd sooner take up a side job when money gets tight. And if they do take out a loan or have debt, they view it as a moral obligation to pay it back in a timely way. Many are experienced tradesmen, and their quality wares are in demand. They are extremely savvy small business owners with a 95% success rate. They rarely waste a thing and take recycling to unbelievable levels, like clothes and all. They buy in bulk, which I know because I shop at some of their stores. They never pay retail, and they often shop secondhand. Those with money funnel their funds back into the community, which I think most of them do. You know, these communities of these secular religious communities, they do that. They eat like kings, but they grow most of the meals themselves. They avoid government handouts and are exempt from contributing to Social Security, which I actually didn't know. So that's my neighbors. That's the Amish neighbors. And we're going to get to you guys in the chat soon. I wanted to juxtaposition one group where I used to live and another group where I live, and how different they are in their, you know, they all may have lots of children, but it's what they do with their time that's a lot different. And they're still very, very religious. They go to church. It's not like they're not. They, you could go through this whole thing, but it's very interesting. I've read all the history of the Amish. So to go back to just to go back a little bit to the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for religious school. I added this in. Again, I'm not going to read the whole thing in the interest of time, but it was about Oklahoma, and it was this is in the Washington Post about not paying for school. So I'll put these links in the show notes. This all right. So to anyone concerned about the integrity of public school system, the board's vote was obviously out of bounds. So they're talking about the Supreme Court. The enablers on the Supreme Court dismantle what Thomas Jefferson described as a wall of separation between church and state, which is happening in front of us. And it's in full speed ahead in Project 2025, which is the Heritage Foundation and all the very wealthy right-wingers are pushing to have a very white evangelical Christian country, which again goes back to that first article from the foreword that I narrated in the piece, the first piece that I made. So this is something else. They're talking about funding Christian schools and Hasidic schools and Muslim, all religious schools. What's going to happen to public schools? And that's been something all along. All right, well, I'm not going to go into this one because I want to move over a little bit. This was just, to juxtaposition again, the same thing, the different religions. But I'm going to go and move a little bit now into politics, okay? Because now we're going to segue. If you heard in the first one, the first video, I want to come back. Hang on. Okay. In the first piece that I did, how politically they had like a split vote in the 2016 election, and the Satmar Hasidim voted 99% for Donald Trump. So I don't know what's happening now politically over there. And as that article had said, that they'll vote for whoever is going to pique their interest, is going to butter their bread, is going to whatever, right? But the issue is, if Project 2025 is envisioning a white Christian America, is there room for the Satmars? Is there room for Islam? Is there room for the Muslims? I mean, this is where we're going in the United States. Ask yourself those questions. You've seen these religions now. I cannot stand organized religion. Spirituality, like our follower Gary Hoover, is so much a better way to go. It's not preaching like Jared Brock, the writer I've illustrated, who's a collapse writer, Christian. I mean, I can deal with people who don't proselytize or want to control or take over, but and I don't want to put people down for their religion. I personally don't understand it. I don't like it. And I was going to tell you a quick little story about before we segue over, about my past. And let me tell you, Hasidic guys, they're men. They're all just men. I worked in a strip joint, go-go bar, as a bartender. Put myself through college. When I was married, wore shorts at the top, it was not like that. But let me tell you, those guys came in and they spent money. Okay. So they're just men like every other man, but the women, no, the women are subjugated. The women are home raising the kids, just like all of them. I mean, even, and I look at these evangelical services and these channels that show these people, these women, and they're all gussied up and they're all glamorous and they're all dressed up. But I just wonder what happens to them. Are they going to be in the Senate or in Congress or run for office? What's going to happen? Or will it be Gilead? I mean, think about this. Really think about it. And as you're thinking about it, I'm setting up something. We're going to change gears a little bit. And I think it's here. I hope it's here. Let me see.
If the Founding Fathers were alive today, I'm sure they would say... If the Founding Fathers were alive today, I'm sure they would say... I reckon the Founding Fathers would say, but by golly, the climate has always changed.
All right, that's a really cool channel. History Falls Apart. Yeah, I didn't make that, but that was cute. I have another one, but because we're going to segue to an article I have from Politico. Let me change myself. Okay. So I'm going to this Politico because, boom, ba-doom, no more going wobbly in the climate fight, Trump supporters vow. So here we are. We're having a big religious war in the United States in a way with this conservative Supreme Court. And then you segue over to the climate fight. And wanting to make changes in our country and wanting to get this under control, which, it's not going to get under control. And it's a difficult conversation, isn't it? But this guy, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement, staffed his environmental agencies with fossil fuel lobbyists, and claimed against all scientific evidence that the Earth's rising temperatures will start getting cooler. Now, every idiot in Western New York is saying right now, because Buffalo's going to get another, 2 feet on top of the 3 feet where my kid lives. So, global warming, ha ha ha, the climate always changes, all that bullshit. But it's cold because of the jet stream bringing the Arctic air out. So I want to go down here and, the approach is to go back to an all-out fossil fuel production and sit on the EPA, said Steve Malloy, climate change denier, a former Trump transition team advisor who was well known for his industry-backed attacks on climate science. In his first term, Malloy said Trump surrounded himself with too many people who were part of Washington's political class, resisted dismantling parts of the government. A lot of people he appointed were weak. But guess what? You know what they're going to do now? They're building that comprehensive plan to decimate both climate policy and regulations on fossil fuels. So we're not going to be able to breathe. And we're collapsing. It's going to be from a bunch of things I've shown tonight. Trump allies expect that the former president would fill his next administration with officials who are even more hostile to efforts to address global warming. Oh my God. Anyone who cannot fathom how Hitler got control of Germany need only look at Trump's hold on the base of the GOP and the refusal of the GOP leaders who know what is happening to call out his criminal conduct. He's a scary guy. And the climate is pretty much fucked if this happens. They're writing a battle plan, and energy lobbyists are going to be put into key position of power. I mean, it's going to be like, whoa, I think it's going to be crazy. And I would say, to those people that cheer on the collapse, I don't know, we're probably going to hit 500 ppms, parts per million, with what's going to happen. And I don't see that we're going to fight any fights against any kind of fracking, and New York will be fracked. Yep. They're marshaling their forces for this. And so politically, religiously, and environmentally, the 3 things I mentioned for this show. And I'm not going to read this whole thing again because there's a lot in it, but we know what it's saying. So what I'm going to do one more time, guys, I hope this is the right one. Hang on. I hope this is the right one. I'm going to set it up. We have one more, and then we're going to have our discussion. Let's hope this is the one.
And on June 14th, 1946.
Okay, it is. All right, guys, enjoy this. Have fun, and I'll be back in a minute.
And on June 14th, 1946, God lost a bet with Satan, and Satan said, pay up. So God made Trump. God said, I need someone willing to get up before dawn to call Fox and Friends, hypnotize Brian Kilmeade, beg for money, bang a porn star, get someone killed, pay off a porn star, and tweet until noon until he stumbles into work wearing a Big Mac like an alien facehugger. So God gave us Trump. God said, I need a sweaty swindler with arms long enough to cheat at golf, but hands small enough to order off the kids' menu. Someone who could sell shit to a shithole, or a cock ring to Lolo Jones at a Purity Ring kiosk. A flatulent fraud to wank a warmonger, shank a translator, fillet a potentate. Hide a bone saw, sell a secret, come home hungry. Stop at KFC, promise to pay for everyone's meals, dock the check. Call the First Lady having lunch with friends in a different state. Then tell the ladies he needs a moment alone with the First Lady because she should probably get tested for hepatitis. And to be sure sure to come back real soon, ladies, especially the ones with behemoth bazongas. So God gave us Trump. I need a savage beast, soothed by Kid Rock whistling Dixie, bewildered by water, incontinent enough to wear a XXL diaper secured by exoskeletal girdle, hydraulic lift, and bioweapons containment team willing to give their lives for the love child of a Habsburg inbred and a necrotic squash. A flim-flam philanderer who can turn shit to gold, gold to shit, soybean farmers to welfare queens. A reeking rake who can't read but speaks in tongues, manifesting Mein Kampf like a Ritalin-roused Rhonda Byrne Ubermensch. So God gave us Trump. God said, I need a tacky trickster who writes like a fourth grader, talks like a third grader, cheats like a fornicator, brags like a compensator, and dresses like a headwaiter who wears golf cleats to church. A louse who leans 60 degrees in 3-inch lifts, waddling down a ramp, grabbing a steering wheel, tear-gassing a book club, with the fetid charnel house miasma of splenetic emissions escaping his manly sweat glands and ass pores, all the while bankrupting a casino, chiseling the Secret Service, stealing government staplers, losing a lawsuit, inciting a riot, looking up his daughter's skirt with shoe mirrors, and masturbating on a Bible. So God made Trump. And God said, I need an absentee father, deadbeat debtor, vengeful vulgarian to be my champion with a golden mane. And the mane shall extend a hand's breadth below the ear on the right, 1 cubit below the ear on the left, 2 cubits from the crown to the upper back. The back shall be fire-hosed forward, transected like a lattice crust of the world's rankest pork pie, raked back and secured with the least woke hair product from among the Canaanites. But the bald patch in the center of the garden you shall not touch, for it is holy to the Lord.
Sight or sound as the stimulus to convex activities.
All right, that was cute, wasn't it? All right, so it's time for us. We have been, 54 minutes. It's perfect. I took us from one dramatic place to an end dramatic place, but it's a circle and everything's tied together. Everything's tied together. Politics, the environment, religion. It's all tied together in the United States. It's all coming together. And Project 2025 is the culmination. So let's look at some of my, what are you guys saying? United Nations media, if you're still here. Conspiracy spirituality is a slippery slope, wide open to psychological, sexually and physical abuse and manipulation, and let alone the separation from earth and nature. Beautifully said. I think so. That was beautifully said. If you want to see exactly how fuck religion is, you can come to Boonesville, Virginia, where their church sells silver Trump testicles. Oh my God. Really? That's pretty wild. I'm looking for, all right, here. I think that Trump testicles, they get the environmental coffee house flush of the day. How's that? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, every part of the country is different. I mean, seriously, but different and somewhat the same. My state introduced a bill to make a fetus a resident. It also removes our state constitutional right to privacy. It criminalizes miscarriages. I'm trying. Jesus Christ. And listen, I'm not saying that Biden is any better. But what I am saying is that if he doesn't win, we may not be on this channel and we may lose our free speech. They may go after the FCC. We don't know how far this could go. There are a lot of Nazis out there. A lot of right-wingers that are pretty ugly. I don't know. What do you think? Am I being hysterical? I don't think so. I've watched this. I've watched what's happening. And it's not fun, is it? It's not pretty. All Orthodox or fundamentalist religious zealots look the same to me, Sage Joe. Yeah, I'm telling you. Oh, we're definitely demonetized on this one. Now, here's a really good statement. Religion cannot be entwined with politics. It becomes a dangerous concept when one believes they have the divine rights of a higher power behind their actions. Absolutely. Yeah. I made this today. Idolatry in Judaism and Christianity is the worship of someone or something other than God, as though it were God. The first of the biblical 10 commandments prohibits idolatry. You shall have no other gods before me. Yet we see with this particular cult that it's complete idolatry. It's kind of like nuts, I think. I mean, yeah, it is. It's nuts. But everything is. I mean, everything we're seeing is yeah. Okay. Let's see. So, okay. All of United Nations media, all these cults, not just Jewish, use conspiracy spirituality to control people. That's also really well said. Isn't it sad? I mean, and women are always the ones that are controlled worse. And I've read about domestic abuse and all of these kinds of things. Australia does one thing right generally. A lot of green spaces are left between development. Not always, but broadly. It ain't going to matter, but it does make places nicer. Thank you, Kai. Thank you. And this is hilarious, or ridiculous. It's hilarious, too. Tax money going to both private schools and religious schools. Good way to take money away from public schools. Good grief. That's right. But this is what the Supreme Court has been going after. This is what these people, since the Tea Party. It's since the Tea Party. Hi, Nadia. Thank you very much for being generous. You always are. I did a summer in Yorktown Heights in 2003, but never had much call to visit that side of the Tappan Zee or Bear Mountain bridges. I visited the city instead, though I was still driving. Okay, well, you're a city person. Thank you so much. You're very generous. Okay, wait. Very generous. And someone who could throw his cheeseburgers at the White House walls and not even feel the need to clean it up. Yeah, that guy who all these people worship. They worship him. It's insane. Michael Cohen also says that the U.S. military, Trump is going to invade Mexico and Canada. How do you spell full of shit? I can't see it. Can you actually see that kind of thing happening? I mean, I can see all the religious stuff. I can see all of the taking of our rights. You know, if we don't look a certain way, you white dudes out there probably will have the easiest time. But I'm kind of like thinking, well, our gay friends, and I mean, look what's happening in Florida. Florida has a travel alert for gay people. You can't go down there. They're trying to erase trans people. It's just, we came so far. I've watched this in my life, how far we've come, how wonderful it was to have people have their civil rights. And now we're just going to lose them going backwards. Deborah, hi, Deborah. I had the pleasure of talking with a millennial generation woman today and was delighted to hear her passion to keep democracy alive by voting this November. There's hope out there. Well, let's hope so, because it is, I mean, it is a serious election. I don't like these policies. I don't like the fact that, you know, the president's a or being called a warmonger or is a warmonger, whatever. I don't like any of it. But as Matt says from the letter hack, he says, we better have plans to absolutely change our government some way in the progressive left and stop fighting, because it's our only hope. We're going to go down in flames. And I didn't want to. All right. The only obsolete, I only went live on this and Twitch tonight. That's all. Because I didn't have anybody to control the narrative on any of the other places. All right. So, Okay, I forgot what you agree with me, but I'm glad you do. I don't want to change anybody, okay? I don't want to tell you how to think, what to believe. I'm giving you information. I'm bringing you things to chew on and understand. You got to make up your own mind how you feel, who you want to vote for. I'm certainly not going to tell you who to vote for, but I am going to extol on you that this is a serious time. And yeah, we used to feel like all the other ones, they said, well, okay, when Trump gets in, let's just burn the place down. Well, we can't burn the place down. I mean, we're already burning the place down. And did you hear, by the way, in Canada, they found a guy, they arrested a guy for starting, I think it's 14 fires up in Canada, who was spreading conspiracy that the government was doing it. And this guy did 14 fires in a drought season. Yeah, that's a good one. I don't have it pulled up, but I read that today. So, Tommy, it's going fast. The mainstream Democratic Party is no friend of the progressive minority within that party, but that's the problem. It has to change. And I would love to see it change. That's why I'm with people like Matt and Jake and Andrea, talking to them. It's giving me a feeling in life of some worth, besides just whining about how fucked we are because of the environmental degradation we're doing. It's a short-term goal, but it's worth working for, I think. Harm reduction is so tired. But we're once again backed into a corner. It is. And how is that going to stop? I don't know. I like to have faith in these younger progressives that I'm meeting. I've seen so much, and to lose everything because the Tea Party and all of these, the racist, I mean, there's Nazis all over. You've seen my videos that I've made, clips I've taken. They are winning. We can't let them. It's disgusting. It is. I'm worried about, a Faustian bargain with Biden to avoid a fascist takeover with Trump. Troubling stuff. The system always wins. I don't have a lot of hopium, but what I got left in me in my broken down, disabled back and body is to at least try to educate, try to have a community. You guys. Yeah. There will be no chance for change if the orange menace gets in. He will just declare himself king. And, I have seen clips of these pretty blondes talking about how it would be so great to have a royal family. I mean, we're fucked. A royal family. I was looking. I was looking for that. And here, you're so right. Of course, if Bernie was president, he can't stop the ice from melting. No, but boy, he could make life a lot better for us while we're on our way down. If we're on our way down. And shit. I'm a collapsnik, I guess. Abandon hope of Biden win and prepare for Trump's 2025, or live in denial until it happens. I'm not in denial. I don't know what I am sometimes. I've been reading Master Slave Husband Wife about a married couple that escaped slavery. Some of the things they were complaining about then, we still seem to be complaining about 150 years later. That's a pretty profound comment. Thank you. Yeah. I'm grateful to have found a community that fully understands what we are up against in every single way. Maybe I should run for president. Vote for me. I'm young, virile, not senile, and I'll make sure you get everything you ask for. So run for a public office, run for school board, and you're smart. Start somewhere. Even if we are going, our PPMs are going up and all the shit's happening, what the fuck do we have to lose? And I'll probably end on that while YouTube demonetizes me. What do we have to lose? Everything. We have everything to lose. All right, guys. Good night. I want to say thank you to everybody. I'll probably make some clips out of this, our show. Thank you for moderating moderators. Thank you for the super chat. It's just, I enjoyed it. I hope you learned something and you go out of here just seeing things a little bit clearer with a little bit of a wider lens. Thank you so very much. And we'll see you Friday. See you on Friday.